Good evening, folks. First, I'd like to say I'm so delighted that the English Constitution is finally being pushed as the remedy for this nation and those nations tied to it across the world. It's excellent. It's absolutely amazing that it's actually now got teeth. Because I've been banging on about this for a very long time, both the internet and before that. And delivered and posted to various councillors, MPs and people who claimed authority way back 20 years ago. So it's great that it's actually now getting into people's minds that we have a constitution, and it's not a British constitution, it's an English constitution. That is the important point. Now, that said, there's a huge plethora of supposed experts in the British Constitution. I have to say, I've been looking at them all. I love their efforts. I absolutely 100% support their moving this reality into the minds of the population. However, I want to talk about a man. Okay. Not any man, a particular man, known throughout the world. And this man has had a real sole purpose in his entire career in the alternative media, as it's declared. If you study his early books, and that's before 2000, you gain insight into what is happening to this particular chap. He's entered the mystery school. It's all the masters, all the nonsense, the new age, blah de blah. Okay, so that's his core. So back to what I've said before about my adventure in the mystery school. I had exited the exit very few achieve. This particular man didn't do that. He failed. I recognised this many moons ago. But always you give people the opportunity to change, because we are, if we're autonomous, doesn't matter what we experience, we are always being given the opportunity to move in the correct direction, as opposed to the one we're being encouraged by whatever means, whether that's temporal or spiritual. So this guy proved himself subservient to the masters and its theme. That's theosophy. Okay, that's what runs the New Age movement. Before that, you could say it was what was brought to bear with the Renaissance, and previous to that, we're talking held by the Rosicrucians. Now, what the Renaissance did was amalgamate that knowledge with the secret societies, to the point they were offering out knowledge, but then the cut-off point would ensure that if you wanted more, you had to join one particular secret society or another. I've explained that before in previous videos. So theosophy, we could say, was the end product of the ancient moves and movements to input this stuff into the populations, because it still remains. It still remains as the oversoul to the Golden Dawn ethos, all the New Age nonsense. We're looking at the Club of Rome, looking at the United Nations, we're looking at the Royal Institute for International Affairs, which is Chatham House. We're looking for the American branch, which is the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, etc. So this is the grouping that we're dealing with here. It's the Milner Group, it's the Cecil Rhodes, it's the rebranded East Indias under the Hanoverians. It's a conglomerate, it's a machine, and it's operated globally by what is termed the Committee of 300, also known amongst themselves as the Olympians. Now that pans out, no matter which way you look at the Committee of 300, what is available, it pans out that Greek is their main theology. They take it from the Greek. Now, this is again Byzantium, because it operates a Greek canon, not the Roman canon. So you can see that this theosophical previous to that, Renaissance, Rosicrucian, all came through from the Crusades. That's where it emanates from. The East entered the West in the Crusades by definition of the fact the usurers had managed to take and remove the estates from the then landed gentry to send them off to crusade. They put them in trust, they backed the trustees, they took the land, basically. And then, of course, a lot didn't come back because they were killed. The trustees got the lolly. So a big shift and change in hands in aristocratic level in the Crusades, from which has been born all this nonsense with one aim: to undermine the biblical tradition. Yeah, which is where we get our law. Okay, it's where we get our insights into operating in the correct manner as opposed to what is incorrect. From its get-go, the biblical tradition, the Torah, the New Testament, has been undermined and undermined and undermined because that is the aim of the antagonist, to undermine the creation as ordained, as it were. So we don't have to get into the whys, wheres and whos and whats. We're just saying that there's this clear two-party state, the biblical tradition and all that's come from it, and those that are moving to undermine it because, of course, it cancels out a lot of what they operate, such as usury, murder, etc. One cancels out the other, which is why the other is always classed as the antagonist. So theosophy is the today's representation of all of that nonsense. So back to this guy that I'm talking about. This guy has had one role, really, two roles you could say. One role was, and the main one, was to undermine everything associated with the West. So that's your nations, your states, your religions, all your cultural heritage, everything. His sole purpose has been to undermine that. That was his original purpose. But also within that, the secondary is to push the will of the masters over those that would take the interest in looking at this alternative history, politic, finance, etc. that we're now witnessing today. Because it's the culmination of this great work. That's what it's known as in the esoteric circles. The great work of the ages, if you will. The architect, if you want to go to the Matrix films. Same, all the symbolism and knowledge in that first and maybe the second Matrix was colossal. And I mean colossal. You go, the third was scripted based in it, but it were moving you in a particular direction. Inverting what we should be aiming for. Anyway, that's by the by. So this guy has done nothing but undermine the West, remove everybody's points of reference. But more importantly, this chap has never, ever, ever, ever entered the arena of common law, the law. Ever. Never has this man done this. And I've been pushing it since 2007 on the internet. I'd contacted this guy many times previous to my getting on the internet in relation to this stuff. We've had John Harris, we've had everything that came from John, etc. and everybody else that's been involved in this. And still, the supreme overriding leader in this supposed move to the truth is now pushing the common law. I am very worried now that the power of the Constitution is such that they are making huge moves to scupper that very use of it or her. And they're going to do that by dancing off and taking you down a merry path to nonsense that could actually, in fact, get you in some serious trouble. Now, I am following and watching these existent movers of it, and I'm starting to see things. I'm starting to understand what I'm seeing. I'm looking at connections. This man in particular seems to now be, he seems to have created the power now enough to pull people into his circle We've lost a lot of people in this last lockdown year who have come out with some interesting stuff, and I can see now we're moving into... So there's a big energy moving everybody to this particular guy. Now, that's easy. When you're channeling the masters, because there was a guy last did that and gained power in 1933, channeled. That's what he was a channeler. Okay. And he was nobody until the machine came into play. Now I'm seeing the machine coming into play around this man. Because for the first time now in his whatever years, 30 years of exercising his will in this game, all of a sudden he wants to offer remedy. He wants to control what is the remedy, in my opinion. So at this stage, I would ask that you all start to look out for this kind of shenanigans going on and just cut yourself off from the emotional garbage that this guy has created around himself over these many years. And again, it's so important that people recognise these things, but the position reached by this particular guy has been on the back of real researchers and fruit bat or intelligence researchers who fed him. So there have been those that have fed him information that you're all very aware of, but the real guts of everything and the reason why he's gained this position has been taken from others and plagiarised. And now today, this particular man claims it as his own. So, yeah, it needs to be looked at now as this game moves forward, because I'm seeing a lot of things that shouldn't be with people that are speaking common law but are not communicating it because their language isn't communicating it. The written formats are not communicating the common law. Okay, you've got to remember, in a court of law, a Roman court, which is what we're all under, only the English and French languages can be used. Nothing else. Nothing, not hieroglyphs, not Latin. English and French. Now, so we get to moves being suggested taking place in relation to bringing this government and others to book. The effort is fantastic, but I'm looking at the wording of these things and then there's no communication. So if you're using this to communicate a case, you are opening it up to legalese before you start. So that would be my sort of caution to certain people who are actually moving well with this. Then there are others who are very loud and promoting it, whilst also promoting Donald Trump and in support of this particular guy that we've spoken about. Now, those are the issues I have around this guy in relation to our constitution, because his track record has been to destroy. There will be no change. Whatever he enters, he destroys. He turns it into mush, nonsense and idiocy that the emotional led do swoon. That is not going to get anybody anywhere. You've got to be critical, you've got to be thinking, and you've got to apply the trivia method to all information that comes. If you're intending to use it either to promote it or to act with it in the physical, you have to understand yourself, your enemy, but the data, the grammar that is involved in the arena that you are making a move. Now, this man today is also running around laying the ills of the world and all evil from the beginning of time on one particular blood group. Now, another theosophist that I've studied well did the very same. Okay, this guy particular back in the day laid at the feet of the Jews, the Jewish tradition, the Torah Jews, not the Talmudists. We're talking here about the proper biblical tradition Jewish people, the Hebrews, or anybody that follows the Torah as the overriding body of law. And if you accept the Gospels, you have perfected the Torah in its law, basically. So one particular theosophist attacked one particular biblical tradition. And let's not kid ourselves. The Jews that were murdered in the Second World War were Torah Jews, real Hebrews, what you'd expect when you hear the word Jew, not this bunch that the biblical tradition claims, those that claim to be Jews but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Okay, there's a massive difference. Today, this guy is blaming the same theosophical channeler of the masters, is again laying siege upon one particular blood group. Now, I've studied this blood group for many years. You can see clearly that this blood type isn't just an elite, it's just not inherited the monkey gene. Okay, it's rhesus negative blood, so it doesn't have the monkey gene in it. There are many doctrines that give ideas what it is. Some say it's the original race. Okay, my personal journey showed me that it is definitely tied into Atlantis in a big way, and then the Hyperboreans, who were the supreme civilized existing group of people, or race if you like, post cataclysm, that were not debauched and insane. Now, this particular man is now laying siege against that one particular bloodline as the ill of the world. Now, I'm not accepting that. Nor am I accepting everything that this guy's written about this particular blood group. Why? Because I am rhesus negative. And for anybody to run around telling everybody I'm a shape-shifting lizard that eats children and sacrifices old people, it's repugnant to me. Repugnant. Okay, it just shows the nonsense of the man. Okay, or person. But I'd say that is the man, in this particular case. So, is he better than the previous theosophical channeler? Because he comes across in total opposition to, let's say, the attitude, the spoken word of it. One gave you rah, 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 the other one gives you it's a spoken communication, people. That's the important bit, not the words and the drivel. The spoken word, the energy that emanates from these particular people, and they're energized because they're channeling the theosophical masters, also known as the fallen angels, those that left their estate. If you go Sumerian knowledge, no, I'm not talking about anything that came out of the hand or gob of Sitchin, Zachariah Sitchin, the guy with a big fruit bat, and completely invented the whole charade in relation to his interpretation of those tablets. I will go with the men who spent their life work translating ancient texts and ancient languages. One man in particular, who I won't name because it's a contact that's personal through my associates, who spent 10 years on those Sumerian tablets and ended saying they are unintelligible. So how this Zechariah Sitchin comes out with this bizarre story is rather... But then not when you see how that also works in parallel with this particular guy that we're talking about who's undermining the West. The same goes with Sitchin again, it fits in quite well. So you can see it's a huge operation and it's run by global intelligence. Okay. Now, so there he is. Theosophical, channeler, copying the last channeler. The last channeler destroyed everything in a physical way. This particular one has destroyed everything by removing everything, removing your points of reference as to who you are, where you were born, what is its culture, what is its heritage, etc. That's what he's done. That's all he's done. Now, all of a sudden, he's involved in the real remedy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take stock of what I've just said today. Because for us real people, us real men and women, because there's a lot of women involved in this that I will give kudos to in this truth movement, far more than men in many cases. Men are easily distracted sometimes. Women, when they focus, they focus. So to the real men and women that are involved in this, and I've been for a very long time, we need to be very, very aware of what's going on, who's where what, who's connecting to who, so we can better understand who are the hidden networks operating for those hidden networks that exist from the Second World War, but from the other side of the channel. Just who is it that these people are today? Because you might be very surprised when you actually sit down and give it some serious thought. So, in reverence of our Constitution, and being the 11th of November, and the day we remember those that died, that we may live and continue to live on this island, there's nothing more befitting than another method of protecting our nation, our children, our parents, and our lovely land. But more importantly, our law. And we're not going to get that if what I've presented tonight is correct, you see it as correct. We need to stop this. We need to stop it by not letting them rattle on. Pull them apart at every time they show. The gob isn't matching their actions. So with that, I will say, till the next time.